welcome back to the podcast, the Evil Dungeon Master Universe Podcast. I'm your host, Evil Dungeon Master Vince, and I don't know why I'm talking like this. Anyway, hopefully you're doing well out. It is Monday, time for another podcast. Hopefully today's episode will be something a little bit interesting, something to think about as my email beeps off there. Anyway, ask the DM at theevildm.com is my email address, and theevildm.com is my website. You can also go to solo.to/theevildm to get all the links of everything I'm doing for all the sites and all the wonderful things that I produce. Because some people were asking for that, so there you go. So today's episode kind of made me think because my group is playing basic fantasy. Yeah, I know it has nothing to do with AD&D 1E. Woo, boo, boo. But hey, you know what? It's old school enough for me, and hey, I'm getting them to play it, so whatever. It's a bridge, a bridge game, a gap, whatever. Yeah, so we're playing basic fantasy, and then some of the rules in basic fantasy mimic the optional part can mimic 1E. So I was like, haha. And if you don't know, basic fantasy is basically a clone of BX D&D with more of a modern take on it, with ascending AC and stuff like that. It still has the flavor of BX and everything, but just a little bit more added on to it. So we're playing basic fantasy, and one of the optional rules is goal for XP. So I'm like, okay, I'm used to that for 1E. Perfect. And I could do an episode on that too, because that's an interesting topic in itself. But gaining experience levels, because it mentions in the optional rules that if a DM wants to do goal for XP, that he will have to figure out another way to maybe make characters spend that gold, kind of a gold sink. And those rules were actually covered, and they mentioned, sorry, I'm going ahead of myself. He also mentions that, you can do training, and I'm like, ho, wait a minute, that's right, 1E has a whole training thing set up on it. And on page 86 of the Dungeon Master's Guide, we have gaining experience levels and training for experience levels. Now, there's a whole process here that a DM actually has to sit there and grade how the players play their class, as if he's a teacher, grading his students. Because what Gary says in here, just because you acquire the experience points does not mean that you suddenly become the next level. The gaining of sufficient experience points is necessary to indicate that the character is eligible to gain a level of experience, but the actual award is a matter for you, the DM, to decide. Consider the natural functions of each character class. Consider also the professed alignment of each character class. Briefly assess the performance of each character after an adventure. Did he or she perform basically in the character of his class? Were his actions in keeping with his professed alignment? Mentally classify the overall performance as see, this is where I said you could get into being a teacher. E, excellent. S, superior. F for fair, and P for poor. And each one has a 1, 2, 3, 4. Clerics who refuse to help and heal and do not remain faithful to their deity would be an example. Fighters who hang back from combat and attempt to steal or fail to boldly lead. Magic users who seek to engage in melee and ignore magical items. They could employ in crucial situations. Thieves who boldly engage frontal attacks and refrain from acquisition of extra bit of treasure when the opportunity presents itself. Cautious characters who do not pull their own weight are clear examples of a poor rating. Pause for dramatic effect there. So you have to actually sit here and grade your characters based upon that. And as you get your 1, 2, 3, or 4, that will be how long and how much it costs a character to level up, so to speak. So here it comes further. Award experience points normally when a character is given his or her total. Also give them an alphabetic rating, E, S, F, or P. We discussed that already. When a character's total experience points indicate eligibility for advancement in level, use the alphabetic assessment to assign an equal weight to the behavior of the character during each separate adventure, regardless of how few experience points were gained. The result totaling is then divided by the number of adventures, to come up with some number between 1 and 4. This number indicates the number of weeks the character must spend studying and or training before he or she actually gains the benefit of a new level. Be certain that all decimals are retained, as in 1.1, as each 0.145 equals 1 game day. Jeez. Not only must the game time be spent by the character desiring advancement, but the treasure will have to be spent as well. Uh-huh. The amount of gold pieces, or the equivalent in value in gems, jewelry, and magic items, is found by using the following simple formula. Level of the trainee character times 1500 equals weekly cost study training. The level of experience the aspiring character should be computed at a current, not the game level. Got it. So, initial study or training must be conducted under the tutelage of a character of the same class or profession as the trainee, blah, blah, fighter, paladin, or blah, 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 blah. Note that the tutor might possibly accept some combination of gold or service in return for tutelage as a DM's option. Exception: a character with performance score under 2 need not be tutored, but the study and training time will be twice the indicated period of 1 week becomes 1.2. And so basically, the worse that you do at your character, the more time you have to spend training per your grade that the GM gives you. And as you get up in levels, it gets a little more expensive. When you become a certain level, you can actually start training yourself, but it's also double the experience points when you do it. So I never really liked this system at all, because it's a gold sink, so you can get rid of all that gold that you're being given out due to the gold for XP type thing. But I don't like the fact that you have to sit there and grade the characters in the game, because the teacher, you have too much to do as a DM, and frankly, I did not do any of that. I didn't think it was, I didn't really think it was right to do that. First of all, everybody plays differently when they play a game, so just because I don't think you played a thief right doesn't mean you don't think you played a thief right or played a thief right, whatever. So what I honestly did for this situation was, I just kept it. Everybody would just get, was it the excellent mark, and they would just have to pay level times 1500 weekly cost during study and trading. If I was giving out a lot of gold, I did it like 3000 weekly cost. So basically, you would go, if you were level 2 going to 3, you'd be, what is it, 9,000 gold pieces just to study for a week. And that's all it was just a week. I didn't want to make it so that it was like multiple weeks because you were a shitty paladin or something like that. I don't think it's fair to do that at all. And I only did it from levels 1 to 3. After 1 to 3, I made it so that it was self-training. And instead of doubling the week cost, I just reduced actually the cost of it. Gave them a discount, saying all they really were doing was going into town and they were buying new supplies and things to help them train. So it's a different way of handling it for a campaign. And the reason why I'm going through all this is because I need to make up a system for Basic Fantasy, because Basic Fantasy mentions it. And after talking to the creator of Basic Fantasy, he said the issue really honestly has never come up, and that he said, yeah, go for it. If that's what you want to do, go for it. No one's honestly done it because that's only been a first edition thing. And looking around, he's quite right, because there isn't, I don't think any other edition does training for, for leveling up. Basic didn't do it. Second edition didn't do it because, they didn't, it was something that Gary was not part of anymore. So 1E is the only one that has training for leveling up. Now, like I said, I'm only going to do it levels 1 to 3 because I feel like levels 1 to 3 is when you really need that kind of like tutelage, and you need to have a mentor above you watching what you're doing and someone to train with. Well, it seems funny that why would a fighter need a mentor? Well, a fighter does need a mentor when it comes to fighting in combat, because when you're training, you need to have someone who is an expert in combat fighting with the sword or whatever to critique and show you different ways how to do it. Like you've always seen various movies where the hero is training and he finds this person that's just slightly better than him, and he kind of they have like the whole sword fighting thing and training, even like Star Wars, how the paladins will train with the Jedi Knights to show them how to get better at combat. And I think it's a good idea. Paladins will need it too. Clerics, yeah, to get their whole clericy way out. Thieves practicing how to do, picking different type of locks and everything. So yeah, I'm gonna do it, but I'm just gonna make it so it's gonna be simple. And we could next. I think I'll talk about next time. Talk about goal for XP, because that sounds like that might be an interesting topic too. How I handle that and how you handle that. But with that said, I'm going to head out. So tell me what you think about training for leveling up, because I'm interested in hearing your comments on that. It's always a topic that a lot of people don't like. So anyway, keep it original, keep it old school. Good night. God bless, and we'll see you later. Keep those AD&D fires lit.